Hi all, welcome to the topic pricing under perfect competition. Before beginning the session, let's have a quick recap on what we've learned so far, and also I'll be taking you through the contents that we are going to discuss today. So you've already learned about market structure, types of market structures, and the features of perfect competition. You now know that market refers to the whole area where the buyers and sellers of a product are spread, and market structure refers to the nature and degree of competition in the market for goods and services. Hence, the competition prevailing in a particular market determines its structure, and the level of competition itself is determined by other variables such as number of firms existing in the market, barriers to entry and exit, product differentiation, information about the market, etc. You may be remembering the market structures which we've discussed. The various market structures include perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. We'll also be learning about structures such as monopsony, duopoly, bilateral monopoly, and oligopsony. So to start with, what do you remember about perfect competition? Can you recollect any of the features of perfect competition that we've studied? So, perfect competition is a market situation in which there are numerous buyers and sellers. I hope you remember there are large buyers and sellers in a perfectly competitive market, and they all are well informed about the market conditions, and the market price of a commodity is beyond the control of an individual buyer or seller. They sell in homogeneous product, they engage in homogeneous product, and no individual firm is in a position to influence the price of the product, which means the price elasticity of demand for a single firm will be infinite, and therefore an individual seller or a firm in a perfectly competitive market is called to be a price taker rather than a price maker. And in today's session, we'll be learning about how price is determined in a perfectly competitive market. So the various contents for today's discussion will be introduction to pricing under perfect competition, the various time periods that are involved in perfect competition pricing, and pricing in market period, pricing in the short run, pricing in the long run, and how equilibrium price is determined in a perfectly competitive market. Now let's have an introduction to pricing under perfect competition. We've already learned that no single buyer or seller is in a position to influence the market price. Then how will price be fixed under perfect competition? So in a perfectly competitive market, market price is determined by the interaction of the forces of market demand and market supply. So what is market demand? Market demand refers to the sum of the quantity of a particular product demanded by individual buyers at different prices. And market supply is the sum of quantity supplied by the individual firms in the industry. So remember the terms market demand curve and market supply curve, which together determines the price in a perfectly competitive market. And the demand curve indicates the total quantity of a product that consumers are both willing and able to buy, and the supply curve indicates the quantity of a product that suppliers are willing and able to supply at certain market prices. To understand pricing in depth, we need to learn about 3 time periods under which price determination is done under perfect competition. They are market period, short run, and long run. So what would be market period? Market period refers to an hour, a day, or a few days, or even a few weeks, depending upon the nature of the product. In market period, the time span is really short that no firm can increase its output to match with the demand. And short run is the span of time so short that existing plants or other equipments cannot be extended and new plants cannot be erected to meet increased demand. However, some changes can be made in variable factors of production so that the supply can be adjusted to some extent according to changes in demand. And regarding the long run, it's a period of time long enough to permit changes in both the variable as well as the fixed factors of production. Therefore, in the long run, all factors are variable and non-fixed. Now let's get into the main aspects of price determination. First, we will talk about market period. In the market period, price determination should be understood from two perspectives for perishable commodities and non-perishable commodities. We've already seen that market period is a period in which the supply is limited by the existing stock. The period is so short that more cannot be produced in response to increased demand. So the firms can sell only what they have already produced. For example, in the case of perishable commodities like vegetables or fish, the period may be a day and the supply is limited by the available quantity on that particular day. It cannot be stored for the next market period, and therefore the whole of the product or the supply must be sold away on the same day, whatever the price may be. Look at the diagram. It shows that the supply curve of perishable commodities like, for example, fish, the curve is perfectly inelastic and assumes the form of a vertical straight line, SS. Look at the straight line curve, the vertical straight line SS, which depicts the supply curve. The demand curve is shown by the curve DD. Okay, and from the point of intersection between the demand curve and supply curve, we get the equilibrium price OP and equilibrium quantity OS. Suppose if the demand for fish increases suddenly, shifting the demand curve to D1, price increases to OP1 in response of the increased demand, but as supply is limited, it cannot be increased in the market period. As you can see, the supply remains OS itself even if the demand has been increased and the price has been increased accordingly. Unlike for perishable commodities, the supply curve of non-perishable commodities will not be a vertical straight line throughout its length. This is because some of the goods can be preserved or kept back from the market and carried over to the next market period. Therefore, there will be two critical price levels. The first, a high price at which the seller will be prepared to sell the whole stock. The second is a low price at which the seller would not sell anything in the present market period but will hold back the whole stock for some better time. Therefore, the price below which the seller will refuse or decline to sell is called the reserve price. Thus, as we said, the seller for non-perishable commodities faces two extreme price levels. One at which he is ready to sell the whole stock. Look at the diagram. You can see price OP1 is the high price at which the seller is ready to sell the whole stock. And look at the price OP2, that's the price at which or below which the seller refuses to sell any product. The supply curve of a seller will therefore slope upwards to the right up to the price at which he is ready to sell the whole stock. You can find in the diagram the SF portion is elastic and beyond the point F, the supply curve will become a vertical straight line. Look at the FS portion, that's inelastic. Whatever be the price, that portion of the supply curve is inelastic. This is because the entire stock is sold out at price OP1. As we said, OP1 is the highest price at which the entire stock will be sold out. So beyond which the supply curve will become an inelastic curve. And as we said in the previous case, DD is the demand curve and SFS is the supply curve, and we get from the point of intersection R, we get OP as the equilibrium price and OM as the equilibrium quantity. And when demand increases from DD to D1, as you can see, the price increases to OP1 and correspondingly the supply increases to OM1. And when the demand falls to D2, the price declines or decreases to OP2, and thereby the quantity supplied decreases to OM2. But as you saw for the case of non-perishable commodities, the decline in quantity supplied is not as intense as we saw for perishable commodities. This is because some sort of adjustments can be made in the quantity supplied as the nature of the goods is non-perishable. Regarding pricing in the short run, you have to remember short run price is determined by short run equilibrium between demand and supply. In the market period, we've already seen that since supply cannot be increased according to increase in demand, and therefore the market period price will sharply rise. But in the short run, the supply of output will be increased by increasing the variable factors of production, and therefore the short run supply curve is elastic. Look at the second diagram, the rightmost part of the diagram. You can see an elastic SRS curve over there. DD curve represents the demand curve for the product of the industry. As DD intersects SRS at point E, OP is the short run price that the individual firm will take, and the firm will adjust its output at OM. When the demand increases from DD to D1, it intersects the short run supply curve SRS at point Q, and therefore new short run price OK is determined, which is higher than the original price OP. It's clear from the diagram that at price OK, the firm will make supernormal profits as price OK is greater than the average cost at equilibrium output OM1. Look at the first part or the leftmost part. You can see that the price OK is greater than the short run average cost. Look at the SAC curve. You can see that the price is more than the short run average cost. And suppose if there is a decrease in demand for the product from DD to D2, in the short run, the firms will reduce the output by reducing the employment of labor or other variable factors in response to decrease in demand. So the new demand curve D2 meets the short run supply curve SRS at point T, and short run price OG is determined, OG, which is lower than the original short run price OP. At price OG, the firm will supply OM2 output and will be making losses since OG is smaller than SAC at output OM2. Look at the diagram, you can see the price OG does not cover the short run average cost. Therefore, there are chances for losses. But the firm will continue producing the product even at price OG because OG is greater than average variable cost. You can see OG is greater than average variable cost curve, AVC. However, a firm will not produce at a price which is lower than the average variable cost in order to avoid incurring losses. A firm will rather close down than to produce at a price lower than average variable cost. So in a nutshell, average variable cost sets a minimum limit to the price in the short run, or short run price cannot fall below the average variable cost. Now let's discuss pricing in the long run. In the long run, all factors are variable and non-fixed as the firms can change their output by increasing their fixed equipment. They can enlarge the old plants or replace them by new plants or even add new plants. Look at the diagram, you can find a few curves over there. MPSE is the market period supply curve. SPSE is the short period supply curve. LPSE is the long period supply curve. You can see MPSE is a vertical straight line. SPSE is bit elastic and LPSE is more elastic. And there are two demand curves. DD is the initial demand curve and D1 can be the increased demand curve. The original price is OP, which we get as an intersection between DD and LPSE curve. Here we are talking about long run pricing. So look at the intersection between DD and LPSE. You get OP as the equilibrium price and OM as the equilibrium quantity. When demand increases to D1, the price rises from OP to OP1 in the market period. The market period price rises to OP1. Whereas in the short period, the price rises from OP to OP2 and this is because the supply can be increased to some extent and hence the change in price is lesser than that of market period. In the long run, the price rises to OP3 and as supply can be adjusted fully to the demand, change in price is even lesser than that of the short run. The increase in price in the long run due to increased demand will be lesser than that of short period as supply can be adjusted. You can find it from the diagram that the increase in price in the long run due to increased demand is lesser than that of the short period. This is because in the long run we get time enough to adjust the supply fully to the demand. Similarly, the decline in price in the long run in response to decreased demand will be lesser than that in the market period and in the short period as more stock can be held back for the future. Finally, we've reached the last aspect of this session, that's equilibrium under perfect competition. For a firm to be in equilibrium under perfect competition, two conditions must be fulfilled. You have to remember two conditions in order to understand equilibrium under perfect competition. First one, the marginal cost must be equal to the marginal revenue. MR should be equal to MC. Marginal revenue should be equal to marginal cost. However, this condition is not sufficient as even if it's fulfilled, the firm may not be in equilibrium. Look at the figure, it shows that marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue at point T. Yet, the firm is not in equilibrium as OQ2 output is greater than OQ1. There is scope for the firm to produce OQ2 output and hence the firm is not in equilibrium at point T. Now let's see the second condition as well. The second condition for equilibrium requires that marginal cost curve cuts the marginal revenue curve from below. That is, the marginal cost curve should be rising at the point of intersection with the marginal revenue curve. At point R, both the conditions are fulfilled. As you can see, MR is equal to MC and MC cuts MR from below. So here we can say point R gives us the point of equilibrium and thereby the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Thus a perfectly competitive firm will adjust its output at the point where its marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue or price and marginal cost curve cuts the marginal revenue curve from below. So dear students, that's all for this topic of pricing under perfect competition. Hope you found this useful. See you again. Thank you all.